Sport has an ambiguous history when viewed from a management perspective. This is the opening line of the assigned extract from Smith and Stewart 2010 and gives a powerful indication that there is no one correct way in which sports management perspectives can be seen. The introduction then goes on to note that sports management perspectives are often divided into two contrasting physiological approaches. The first being seen as a unique cultural experience, and the other as nothing more than a generic business enterprise. As time has moved forward, these physiological approaches have often become blurred and is seen as little irrelevant due to sports commercialization and corporization. Due to sports corporization and commercialization, Smith and Stewart 2010 saw that there were some very distinct and special features that make a sports organization unique. To prove this, they used the 2000 Nice Declaration on Sport from the European Council 2000 to show that through the introduction of the term specifically in sport, when referring to sport's individual characteristics, made it clear that sport is not just a form of leisure, but also seen as an important cultural institution that delivered significant social benefits to a diverse range of communities. The White Paper on Sport from the Commission of European Communities 2007 strongly confirmed sport's unique management status when it pointed out that specifically European sport can be approached through two prisms. The first approach being in the form of a specifically of sporting activities and rules, including the provisions of perceiving competitive balance and outcomes of uncertainty. And the second, that the sports structure is presented in the form of a pyramid through peak authorities. The European Commission has always supported the idea of specifically in sport, and in the final area of the introduction, it uses the Bosman case of 1995. It changes the way player transfers were undertaken by lifting the restrictions on movement with the European Union, seeing a more feasible move for players at the end of their contracts. While the case has since helped players, it has also shone a light on the areas that are overlooked by the union. Those being that the government bodies have less control over the preventing multiple ownership of clubs in the same organisation, and the enforcement of anti-doping regulations and a cartel-like cohesion. This leads into the second half of the presentation, the topic of managing the fishbowl experience of players, which focuses on how athletes are at the forefront of a sporting organisation. They are the people the public and media want to talk about. They are the ones that are critically analysed for their performances on the field, and now, because sports globalisation and developments in social media technologies, all the actions of athletes and their behaviour are instantly uploaded for the world to see. Sorry. This is currently one of the big issues facing sports managers in today's society. And most professional sporting organisations have a code of conduct and regulations for athletes that are contracted to that sporting organisation. As a sports organisation, managing players have also look out for their well-being, and therefore have lawyers, counsellors, agents, psychologists on standby to assist players and manage their behaviour. I mean, just look at Australian professional athletes, for example, and their current battle with the media. I could list probably 10 off the top of my head right now, but I'm going to use Ben Cousins' AFL career in 2007 that was fast becoming non-existent when he admitted to using illicit drugs while playing the game. This shows that it is not just the physical behaviour of players that hits the media headlines, but issues such as illicit drugs, but also have a major factor on managing the fishbowl experience of players. Managers have an association with WADA, a World Anti-Doping Agency, that established responsibility to monitor and control drug use in sport. Their main reason for being so powerful in the world of sport today is specifically a list of prohibited drugs, being careful to distinguish between those that demonstratively improve on-field performance and those that are listed and undermine the health and well-being of players and athletes, as well as tarnishing the reputation of sport itself. To create a list of raft suspensions and fines for players and athletes that have been found to have been used, possessed, supplied, or trafficked any banned substance, and also providing a tribunal-style process whereby allegations are heard, judgments are made, and penalties imposed where appropriate, from Smith and Stewart, 2010. In conclusion, the history of sport is not something that can be taken lightly. It is viewed from a management perspective only because the industry is something that is constantly changing, especially since the introduction of commercialization, corporatization, and the globalization. Sports managers need to understand that sports organizations have their own special characteristics away from general business organizations, and therefore certain areas of organizations need to be treated specifically for sport. That is specifically shown under the management of players in a fishbowl experience. Professional athletes are treated like celebrities, and therefore sports organizations need to show support and train athletes to be able to handle media and show a positive public persona, which is why sporting organizations have a set of regulations and a code of conduct that players must stick to or be forced to face a tribunal process for a punishment to be handed down.